Are you interested in ancient history, like ancient structures or ancient queens or theories surrounding the ancient world, or maybe even ancient inventions, or new archaeological discoveries, or even human evolution? Then I suggest you subscribe to the channel, click that bell icon to be notified whenever I upload. And if you do like my work, then maybe consider becoming a patron or a channel member. So these past couple days I have been messaged, pinged and tagged numerous times by countless people on the possible discovery of a new human species from Italy, given the name of Homo sardiniensis. So, as you can imagine, naturally I started to read the page I was linked, and I tried to look for more information to corroborate the claim or to discredit it. So my name is Kaylee, and in this video I am going to look into the claims made about a new human species given the name of Homo sardiniensis, and I'm going to see if this is actually a new species or if it's just a very elaborate hoax that fooled many. So let's take a look into the claim, and as we go I'll give my opinion and evidence pointing one way or another. So the story goes that about 2 years ago, a farmer unearthed a skull on his property in the southwest of Sardinia near the coast. And for years he kept it as a conversation piece, but the new owners of the property turned over the skull to the local historian and antiquities expert. It's said that they did not believe that the skull was contemporary, and thus they sought expert advice, and they consulted paleontology experts on the mainland, although they have not given out any names. I would also like to quickly note that I find it odd that they didn't go to an anthropologist or a paleoanthropologist on the Italian mainland, but I digress. So the claim is made that the skull has been dated to 180,000 years ago, that it featured an archaic Homo sapiens morphology, and that this find upsets the current historic timeline for us modern humans, and that we now need to rearrange the hominid phylogenetic maps when the findings are released. This is a claim currently being made without any evidence pointing to this conclusion. There's nothing leading me to believe that this skull would change the current historic timeline in any way, shape, or form. I also would like to say that I have not seen anything pointing to them actually having dated the skull, because the supposed skull that you can see here is cast in plaster. Either it is just entirely made up of plaster and a wonderfully elaborate hoax concocted by people trying to push a narrative, or the skull is encased in plaster, which would corroborate the story of the farmer keeping it as a conversation piece, but it hasn't been cleaned yet. So the question remains, how did they come up with this date of 180,000 years ago? When you can't date it, it hasn't been dated. It hasn't even been cleaned. They also give a more broad range of date in the opening sentence of the page, and there they claim that the skull is between 150,000 to 250,000 years old. But later in the page, they lean more towards 180,000 to 120,000 years old. So a lot of dates that they just give. So as you can see, there's nothing conclusive about the dates. Nothing they can give us as evidence as to where they got these dates from, and therefore I am perceiving the dates to be uncorroborated claims. It's false information. It's fake news. It's false information based on nothing. Then there is the claim that because it's discovered in Italy on the European continent, this find is disruptive and contests the out of Africa endorsement of the paleoanthropological establishments. You feel how much that sentence hurt me to actually say. They push the idea of the skull to have belonged to the oldest and first modern human from Europe, and they speak about the morphology being quite archaic, with primitive dentition. But the skull is encased in plaster once again, or completely made up of plaster. So how they were able to see its morphology is beyond me. This in itself leads me to believe that the people making this claim about this skull I feel like they have another agenda, a possibly hidden agenda, and they are trying to push a certain narrative. After I decided to shift my content to hominids, I have been bombarded by thousands of people who very much dislike the current out of Africa theory, and they scream from the top of their lungs that it's impossible. And I cannot help but notice that all of this stems from one thing. We just can't seem to get out of this world. We can't seem to get rid of. And that one thing, my dear viewers, is racism. There are people in this world that cannot, for the life of them, believe that all humans originate from Africa, and their racist ideology is extremely painful for me to see and hear, and it makes me very sad that there are people who would like to pretend that we didn't come from Africa. All humans are brothers and sisters. We all come from the same place. We're all one species. We're all Homo sapiens. Mini rant over, sorry. Forgive me, I can get a little bit pissy at times. But yeah, back to the subject, the claims. The skull was discovered on the island of Sardinia, so they're calling it Sardinia 1, and as a nickname they gave it Tatana, as skulls often get nicknames, just like we've seen happen to Lucy, the Australopithecine. It is, however, unknown if the skull actually belongs to a woman or a man. It's not known. So the name given at this point is just for show, as they currently lean towards it belonging to a female. So Alan van Arsdale was brought into the project as a consultant, specifically on the soil samples and stratigraphy. Van Arsdale is a professional wilderness trekker, archaeologist, precious jewel miner, and numismatist from Utah. Why they would need to bring in someone from the United States to research a skull in Italy is beyond me, especially when looking at his expertise. Van Arsdale is a graduate of the College of Creative Studies at UCSB, major graduate level biology research. He did not study at the University of California, Berkeley, as stated on the page. Just wanted to quickly rectify that, as he himself has corrected that on a Facebook page post that you can see here on screen. So yeah, that's Mr. Van Arsdale himself. For a brief period, he worked in the lab of famed paleoanthropologist Dr. Tim White. We do not know what he did in this lab, could have been paperwork, and his studies included the research on the work of anthropologist C. Loring Brace. Van Arsdale is the host of a popular Facebook group on paleoanthropology, and recently he guested on an episode of The Cave Dwellers called The Neanderthal Mind. I personally am still confused why he was the person to be called in to consult about the skull when there must be dozens of paleoanthropologist experts who would fit the bill of consultancy much better. But again, I digress, and let's get back into whatever the page claims. I also have a feeling that he wants to gain clout or momentum or whatever you want to call it. Apparently he wrote a book in 2020 that he tries to sell through many websites. Classification of the fossils. Don't buy the book, I'm just saying, just don't. So Van Arsdale thinks that the skull of Sardinia 1 is not African, and that even though it might have some similarities with the Herto skull from Africa, the gene flow according to him is not similar enough. The Herto skull from Africa has a gene flow from the west of Africa, and a later second big push of a net gene flow coming down from the north of Africa. According to Van Arsdale, Sardinia 1 does indeed share the net gene flow from the west of Africa with Herto, but that Sardinia 1 has more gene flow from the Great Southern Eurasian Archaic gene pool than Herto. I find this highly unlikely because, as far as I am aware, they have not tested the skull for DNA, and therefore there hasn't been any DNA analysis done. And making claims on gene flow without the actual evidence of DNA is something that you simply do not do in the world of science. You do not make any unsubstantiated claims, and if you hypothesize, you make it abundantly clear that you in that moment are hypothesizing and not speaking fact. As you can imagine, I'm already having quite the issue with the claims that are being made. But we aren't done yet, so let's continue, shall we? According to Van Arsdale, the skull of Homo sardiniensis, otherwise known under the names of Sardinia 1 and Tatana, is similar to the Grimaldi skeletons that were found in the northwest of Italy in the 1920s. These Grimaldi skeletons date from the Gravettian period, approximately 26,000 years ago. The Grimaldi skeletons are recognized as part of the wider early European modern human population of the late Aurignacian and early Gravettian cultures. So Van Arsdale tries to suggest a direct relationship between the Sardinia 1 skull and the Grimaldi skeletons, and therefore he tries to push a narrative of a more central origin of modern humans instead of modern humans originating from Africa. So Van Arsdale, as you can imagine, is not the only person who's making these claims. With him is Stefano Giovanni Loi, who comes from Sardinia. Stefano is an antiquities expert and local historian in Sardinia, but he is not an expert in the field of paleoanthropology. Again, not an expert. He told the subspeciest interviewer, Eric, that he doesn't have a timeline for officially announcing the discovery of the skull because the skull has yet to be cleaned, and he is following the instructions of Van Arsdale. So both not an expert, but he's following the instructions of yet another non-expert. He told the interviewer that the skull was plastered over by the farmer who had discovered it, and it seems to have been attached to a wall at some point. According to Stefano, he was not the first historian to handle the skull, although he couldn't give any information on who did handle it before him, which is peculiar to say the least, because normally everything is documented quite well in investigations and research processes like these. Stefano has had a long-standing interest in paleoanthropology, but as I mentioned earlier, he is in no way, shape or form an expert in the field. From the picture of the skull that he was shown, he first thought it was a joke, but then immediately within a minute, he knew that this was an archaic cranium. Let that sink in. This in itself shows his lack of experience in the field of paleoanthropology, because an expert will never jump to such conclusions, and absolutely not with just having seen a picture of a skull partially covered in plaster. This is all the information that was given, the claims that have been made, and my immediate dissections of the claims throughout the video, because yeah, I couldn't leave that for the end. The author of the page on subspecies.com was Eric, a US Navy veteran, again, not an expert in the field of paleoanthropology. The biggest issue that I have with Homo sardiniensis is that people who are very clearly are not experts in the field of science, anthropology, paleontology, and human morphology immediately jump to conclusions, come up with unsubstantiated dates, and claim to have discovered the holy grail of changing the historic timeline and discrediting the out of Africa theory. And it's all based on nothing. None of this is based in actual evidence, because there's no factual evidence besides this picture of a skull that is either covered in plaster or entirely made of plaster. No expert has seen or touched or held this skull. What these people don't tell you is that Van Arsdale is trying to sell a book on human fossils and their classification that he wrote in 2020. The subspecies.com website states clearly in their site info that they want to present an alternative view on the study of evolution and human origins, one that does not conform to a left side woke or globalist viewpoint, that they are the home for dissident paleoanthropology without experts. In my mind, this sounds like we do not believe the out of Africa theory because I refuse to believe that we all originated from a place in the world where people's skin color is dark, and I refuse to believe that I'm related to them. It sounds extremely racist, especially that left side woke globalist portion in their mission statement. It says everything that you need to know, that you should not take them seriously. They have an agenda. This article has been spread around the internet, being passed as factual truth, and it's incredibly important that the real story is shared. We have people here that want to appease to certain groups that might be of a more right-wing side of life. They want to appease to people who like to have certain racist views, and it disgusts me. This racist pseudoscience should have no place in this world. So I ask you to share this video far and wide, and let's make sure that the people who have seen the subspecies page and these claims will also see this video and understand that there's a narrative here that's being pushed incredibly hard while a man is subsequently trying to sell a book. Do not fall for the racist pseudoscience. If a new species is being announced or discovered, you can be rest assured that all the big media outlets will scream about it from the top of their lungs. They will all cover it. Nature will be on top of it, and you can find information abundantly online everywhere instead of on just one website, while the same man who makes the claims spreads this on Facebook pages. Real science and real history is so much more amazing and incredible than these baseless claims made by people with an agenda. It disgusts me, and I really got very annoyed and frustrated during the creation of this script. But for the people who did send it to me, definitely do keep sending me pages like these to investigate so I can do my due diligence and show the real story. The truth will always prevail, and you can be rest assured that I will always be on top of this. So yeah, a wonderful elaborate hoax made by two people and an interviewer with a certain agenda, and it's probably not even a real skull. And if it is, then I would like to stand corrected by both Van Arsdale or Stefano or Eric the interviewer. Yeah, contact me, historywithkaylee@gmail.com. Send me emails if you have actual evidence pointing to anything. Because I have a sister who's a paleontologist. She may specialize in like vertebrates and all that stuff, but I mean, she can give me the contact information on like an expert or two in the field of paleoanthropology, and let's have some fun, shall we? If you enjoyed watching this video, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more of these kind of videos, and click that bell icon if you want to be notified whenever I upload. Because I suddenly upload whenever I want, and I also do the impromptu live stream, so you probably just want to click that bell. I also like to thank my patrons and my channel members. I'm eternally grateful for all your support, and I really like the DM conversations on Patreon. Yeah, this was a wonderful hoax that unfortunately is rooted in some negativity, but you know, let's skim ahead. Let's keep our eyes forward to the future. There are incredible discoveries being made, and I mean, time will tell, but this is not it. Homo sardiniensis it's not it. It's not a new species. It's nothing. And for those who saw my owl tattoo in the last video, or for those who didn't, it's beautiful, it's lovely, it's the skin is letting loose a little bit because that's normal, because it's healing. No, I didn't do it because it's my spirit animal or anything else. I've had this tattoo put on my body to sort of carry my grandma with me always, wherever I go, because yeah, she had some owl statues and stuff in her home, and whenever I saw owls, I thought of her, and she even had a cat whose nickname or eventual name became Owlie, or in Dutch, Uiltje. So yeah, that's why I now carry an owl on my body, not because I'm Athena or anything else. Although according to my friend Henrik, I am Athena. So let me know in the comments below if you agree with him or not. Okay, bye.